Welcome back, everybody. You are watching the NTC podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Washington, joined by Oliver Aruda, one of our contributors on the NTC team. This evening, we have the unique privilege of welcoming in Aaron Miller. He is an NBA pro skills trainer. He's worked with some big names such as Jimmy Butler, Patrick Beverly, just to name a few. Aaron, thanks so much for taking the time to join us on our set. I know you're a busy guy, you got a lot going on, but we appreciate you coming in, and we're excited to have this conversation with you here this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Anytime, man. To get this rolling, you're actually our second guest of the day here in the NBA trainer world, so it's definitely an area that we're getting to get pretty familiar with, and we're very interested in diving into this part of it, especially Oliver. He's been in the gym all summer long. He's been training with a lot of these guys and kind of getting a feel for it. So we're going to jump right into it here, man. We're going to keep it real casual. We just have a few questions we want to ask you here. Location set up here at the Thomas & Mack Center. But to start things off, we'd like to kind of get a feel for how everybody gets a start in their careers. And I'm sure for you, you have a unique story, pertains only to you. It's almost like a fingerprint. No one story is the same.
Right.
So if you don't mind, maybe just let us know how you got started in this field, how you got to the point where you are today, training these guys in the gym, working with them. How did you get involved with that? Is that something you wanted to do from a young age when maybe you were playing in your career, or is it maybe something that came along a little bit later for you?
It's definitely something that came along a little later. I played college basketball, NAIA level, and led my conference in scoring. And I was one of those guys that I still thought I was going to be playing NBA. I thought I was going to be playing it professionally. So when I moved back home, I got a PE job trying to keep some money. I was still living at my mom's house, still chasing my NBA dream. Had to still bring some money in, so I tried to find something I was comfortable with, which was training kids. I built my way up. I was training high school guys. My first 2 years, I never trained a college guy or a pro guy. Year 3 came around, and I trained a couple NBA guys. I was doing it for free, trying to get it on my social media platform just to show other people what I was doing. Trying to do a good job, and then as it kept going and progressing, I still actually had my PE job this whole time while I'm building my business up. So I have an income coming in. The basketball dream passed, but I'm still living my dream, training basketball, training kids, and at this time training professionals. So then when my clientele built up big enough, I took that leap of faith and stepped away from my PE job, and if God says the same, this is now year 8 for me doing this.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I love how you got started in this field. You brought up a common theme that we see all the time when people are trying to get into basketball, into sports. You got to start doing it no pay.
Absolutely.
Just straight up no pay, kind of, living on a prayer, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Just try to make these happen any way you can. So a very inspiring story. I love to hear that. And it's so cool that, people such as yourself, Oliver, we get our start just kind of starting at the bottom, so to speak. Yes. But, the grind is tough, but it's so worth it in the end, getting to do what you love. Even though it's not NBA, so to speak, you still get to be a part of that world.
Yes, and it's just like you have to jump out on faith and provide value. You have to bet on yourself and in hopes, that'll come back in the end if you can provide that value.
Definitely. So, you started out just training kids and working your way up. Ultimately, you were able to pull in some high profile clients. Aaron mentioned a few names at the beginning. What's it like, not only working with them but gaining their trust, of things that they need to work on in the off season? Obviously there are a million people in their ears telling them things that they're doing well, not well on the court. How do you focus on building those relationships and gaining a pro's trust when you're working with them in the gym every day?
Absolutely. So, when you get to the level that I'm trying to get to, that I'm at, with certain NBA players, and me and Pat talk about this all the time, everybody's good at their job, right? So you've already made it past that first test of providing value and showing your worth and proving your worth. Mm-hmm. And so although basketball is the biggest part, it's also one of many parts. So it's like kind of what you said, like I tell you the truth, we are friends, but I'm not here to be your friend. I'm providing a job. This is my job. So it's my job to tell you ways we can get better. It's my job to hold you accountable. And the great ones, they want to be held accountable. So I think that's a big part of it too, is just being able to tell someone the truth, know how to treat people, because how you treat this person is different than how you treat this person. And I just think, building that relationship over time, you gain that trust. And I think gaining that trust is where, you lead to progression.
Aaron, one of the players that it seems like you've gained their trust here during your time in this field is Patrick Beverly.
Yeah.
As we all know, huge personality. He has a chip on his shoulder at all times.
Absolutely.
He grinded so hard to get to where he's at in his career, as you did, and I'm sure that's where you found common ground. That's how you kind of bonded and really formed that relationship. I'm just curious. He's a pretty big personality. He says what's on his mind. Just like you were saying, he tells it like it is. How's it been working with him as an individual? I'm sure he keeps you on your toes,
Yep.
always keeping you ready for whatever's coming in that day. Tell us a little bit about what that experience has been like, working with him, being around him, just having the opportunity to get him better as a player day in and day out.
Yeah. So somebody like Pat, that a lot of people wouldn't know, and he wouldn't tell you, but he's someone that is so appreciative because, like you said, when you get to a certain point like he is, like it's a small circle. He doesn't have 100 people around him. It's just a small 5 or 6 of us that are around him. Mm-hmm. And, he is so appreciative for those people in his life that are, providing value for him and helping him out. And, like the first time we worked out, he wrote me and asked me to work out. And I said, yeah, sure, man, no problem. What time you want to go? 10, 11? He was like, nope. I think I'm with the 6 a.m. vibes. And I said, that's fine, no problem. So we went at 6 a.m. and I had it prepared and I had rebounders and I had the whole workout planned from start to finish. And, I was telling my wife asked me how'd it go. And I was like, I think it went great. I did the best, And then after every workout that first week, he was just like telling me, man, appreciate your effort, your hard work, love the workout. He's just appreciative, man. He's just so appreciative, not only for me, but the people in his life, his family, his mom, and yeah, so it's just been an overall great experience. Yes, he does keep me on my toes, but someone like that, he thrives best when you're holding him accountable too. And yes, and I think someone like that, for him to continue to raise the bar like he has, I just was telling him earlier, I was looking at the stats. The big knock on him was last year he wasn't a playmaker. Well, this year, we doubled his assist numbers. So it's just finding ways in all these different aspects, like how can we get better in this aspect? Well, how can we get better with your weight training? How can we get in better shape so our three-point numbers are like they always are? So I just think it's finding those small things to help him, and he's so appreciative. And maybe he has this funny way of showing it to others, but the people that he loves and the people around him, we know he's appreciative.
I love that.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned those 6 a.m. workouts. I mean, I could tell you firsthand, and I'm sure you agree, like, once those start to stack up after a few days, they can be a little grueling. Just take out, how do you get a proper work-life balance with your work? And I imagine, there are a lot of logistics that need to be taken care of, getting rebounders, getting a gym, having gym access, which is so important as a trainer. How are you managing all the logistical parts behind the scenes as a trainer, and then also being able to recharge at the end of the day, be with your family, and what's that balance look like?
So I have a great situation. I have a 3-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter. My wife is amazing in this journey. She's seen my progression, and she's super supportive. I actually was just in LA, Minnesota, and Chicago with Pat for a full month. Mm-hmm. I think I flew back once or twice to see my family, but we've been on the road for a full month. But like you said, it takes a lot, like you have to have those rebounders and that gym time because, one, not down workout, but basically we look at it as like this person, they're getting their better every day, so we have to put our best foot forward every day. If your weights, if your chef, if your basketball trainer isn't doing their best every day, then that team might have won that day. Mm-hmm. And then we're just so into, like you said, the 6 a.m. workout stack up, but we're going to outwork everybody else. Even in the year that he's in, a veteran, we take the approach of we're going to be prepared no matter what situation we fall into, no matter what the situation is at hand, we're going to be prepared. And that just comes with the most important part, which is the work.
I mean, you spend so much time with these guys, and like Oliver was saying, you're there day in and day out, 6 a.m. every day, and you build a relationship with these guys just naturally. When you spend that much time around people and you really get vulnerable. I'm sure there are times where maybe Pat doesn't feel like working out or you don't feel like working out. It's a long day. You just want to kind of, do whatever. But as you mentioned, you have to stay on your toes. You have to be ready for anything in order to get better every day. You have to put your best foot forward, as you mentioned before. When it comes to the relationship side with these guys, I'm sure that over time you start to develop that relationship to a point where you're close to these guys off the court as well. You spend time with them, maybe just going to grab a drink, or your families hang out and things like that, being a part of their lives. What is that aspect of this field has been like for you in terms of maybe not Pat Bev, but just anybody that
Right,
you
right.
work out with, just getting to connect with them on a deeper level as people,
Yes.
not just in the gym. What would you have to say about that? Just speaking on that part of it, just kind of maybe making this a little bit more, putting the human side on it
Yes.
more than just basketball.
So I think that to date, this being my 7th and 8th year into it, I think that my biggest accomplishment this far is just, having those guys that I started with 6, 7 years ago. Like Andrew Harrison and Aaron Harrison, the Harrison twins.
Yeah.
Josh Gray, who's here. After the game last night, I was just telling him, we went to work out Josh Gray last night after the game. He has his family in there. Like he knows my kids, I know his kids. We're very close knit. Just some of the guys that I've started with are still there. I think that's the biggest accomplishment that I've had, that I hang my hat on, that I'm just appreciative for. And this is more, yes, absolutely, this is my job and I love it, and this is a business. But at the same time, like through this business and something that I'm so passionate about, I've been able to establish these lifelong relationships that I'll forever cherish, for sure.
I love that. And we were just over at our section here behind our studio. It's for Sports Business Classroom. They're actually getting started in their week-long course, and it's something that in their introductory kind of conference they kept touching on. Here at Summer League, it's almost like a family reunion. I've heard that thrown around so many times, and you build relationships, you create new ones, and you expand on the ones that are already existing. I just love that part of not just Summer League, but basketball in general, and it seems like what you're speaking on just kind of further emphasizes the importance of not just being there for people as a trainer or that guy you work with, but also being there when maybe they just want to just go get their mind off of things. So, one night just want to work out or just meet you at the gym or whatever. So I love that part of it, and I love the role that you and other trainers play in these guys' lives, because you're so integral in what they do and how they grow as not only basketball players, but as people.
Yeah, and I also think, too, like I was explaining to my friend that, Summer League is so valuable in the sense of everybody here loves basketball, and that's great. But I would tell every young person, if they're in the end of high school or college, that are chasing these basketball dreams, and I would just challenge them to look around and see, like, what other jobs are here, how many jobs are here that aren't just basketball players.
Yeah.
There's so many, what you guys are doing. There's basketball ops, there's scouts, there's trainers, there's coaches, there's referees, and there's so many ways that you could fulfill that void of basketball if you didn't make it playing basketball, that you could still find happiness in it. And I think that, Summer League is so valuable because it provides all those avenues and shows you what you can do and network with people that are in those shoes that you want to, try on. And so this has been great for not only me, but for everybody that I'm here with.
You emphasize the different paths of,
Yes.
of making it to, some point in basketball. There's not one way to do it.
Right.
That's just so important. I think it's so vital that you touched on that. And if you were to go back maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years back to when you first started, and you had to give yourself a few words of wisdom to get to this point in your career right now, do you have anything in particular that you go back and say to yourself, or maybe it would apply to somebody that's where you were previously, just trying to start working out guys, they don't know anybody? How do they build that clientele? How do they start networking, making those relationships so they can expand upon, so that they have the opportunity to live their dream of basketball through helping other guys get better in the gym?
Sacrifice. Like we just talked about, my family, work-life balance. Like, if you really want it, you really love it, and people say that, but they don't really live like that. Like, if you really love it, how much are you willing to sacrifice? Like, are you willing to leave your wife and kids at home for a month to go fulfill your dreams, right? Are you willing to, have another full-time job so you can build up this job? Like, how much are you willing to sacrifice? And I think that a lot of people say they're willing to. I don't know how much they're willing to, but I think how much you're able to sacrifice, you will get rewarded for. And I think that's been something that if I could go back and tell, 19, 20-year-old Aaron Miller, I think that's what I would tell not only myself, but other people too. Like, however much you're willing to sacrifice is how much you'll be rewarded. And I think that's the biggest part.
Yeah. I actually got one more question. So you mentioned retaining players is like a great accomplishment, and I completely agree. Like, especially seeing out a player's career and watching them develop is like one of the most fulfilling things, I think, as a trainer that you can do. But now, what's your approach in terms of, in this day and age, attracting new players, bringing in new players, whether they're college kids, pros? How do you bring in new players? Are you marketing more towards their agents? Are you reaching out to the players themselves? What's kind of your approach in terms of getting new clientele?
So honestly, to be honest, it's just word of mouth.
Hmm.
So like I have guys that are younger, like Trenton Watford and Javonte Smart, and then I have guys that are in the later years of their career, Greg Monroe and obviously Pat and just some of these guys, and Donald Sloan and Jonathan Simmons, and I just think that I have players that are different age groups, they're different parts of the world in different levels. And I just think doing right by those guys, and obviously, like I said, the most important part, they're showing constant progression, showing improvement. And I think that's the part that attracts other players. I'm just at the point in my career now where I have, like, yes, I'm grateful to have something good going, but I have guys that I'm so focused on and focused on getting those guys better. And I think that it's going to take, you know, not me marketing myself, but people like just seeing how much they've improved, that for them to give me that proper opportunity. But as far as like me reaching out to guys or asking agents, I have a lot of agent friends. I have a lot of friends around the NBA and stuff like that. But I just think taking care of those guys that I'm with, instead of imagine me trying to go and get 50 more guys. Well, then I'm not really focused on those, 8 or 9 guys that I have and, trying to improve them. So I just think doing my job that I have right here, if it's a small nest egg, taking those 8 or 9 guys and making them the best that I possibly can, providing as much value as I can, then I just think that's going to take care of itself. When if somebody comes into Houston and they call around and they say, well, who should I work out with? And they would say my name. Or if, someone got traded and came into town and they needed some work, then I think that my name would be the name to be called, just because I've taken care of those guys that I'm with.
Definitely. I mean, there are a lot of positions in this industry, whether it be on the team side or the agency side, like that are just word of mouth. You hear about opportunities through word of mouth. Like it's not. There are job websites out there for sports and stuff, but especially like within basketball ops on the team side, teams have short lists of people that,
Absolutely.
when there's an opening, they have a short list of who to call. And I imagine it's the same with trainers. It's like, you're in Houston, okay, I got this guy, and if he doesn't pick up, I got the next guy.
Right.
And then, there's a short list. And I think the best thing you can do is just make sure you're on that short list,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
It seems like you have a good network of people, Aaron, and you're on the right track doing all the right things, and you've put in the work, and that's obvious, and the clientele that you have and you're developing. So just want to say just congrats on what you've been able to do so far. Best of luck going forward. And, like I said before, we just appreciate you coming on. We're all kind of in the same boat here. We're all on the same team, just trying to develop develop those relationships and get to meet people. So it was good to meet you, and thanks so much for coming on to NTC and giving us a little part of your day.
No, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So for NTC, you can catch us at notradeClause.com. We also have our Twitter, Instagram handles, and we'll be back here a few more times over the next week or so at this very studio at the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas. So be sure to check out our website for a bunch of our resources and our podcast here if you're looking for more great guests such as Aaron here all around different parts of the NBA. So until next time, everybody, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you enjoy the rest of the Summer League Showcase here in Vegas. And we'll catch you on the next installment of the NTC podcast. Take care, everybody.